just take a second to kick in. This is Ben from Second Dynasty here, back with you with yet another Not a Nante work in progress, and then we're going to do part 3 of our Transport Delta modifications. You can see the ship in the background there, and with me on the line I have, of course, my good old buddy Zorima. You want to say hi?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. So I guess we'll have a couple of people dropping in a moment. Um, but since this is going up to YouTube, we did have a question about how it's going to work getting people into the ship and accessing. You know, the upper airlock is here. Um, Essentially, you're going to want to land. Let's say with the boarding tube here. Would be the normal way of getting people to the ship up the top, and then there's also the uh, cargo bay door here as well. Um, so it's going to create some issues. I've been thinking of ways that the cargo could maybe have an exterior lift, but that would definitely be in stretch goal territory. Generally speaking, this ship is not for landing on planets; it's for docking. But it can do that, and in fact, at the bottom of the ship, we're going to be having a ladder well that runs its way up through the entirety of the ship. I don't know if you guys can easily make it out here because of the shadows. You can try it. No, that's even worse. Let's see. If I turn off the lights, it's a little bit clearer here. So there's this ladder well that goes up through every level of the ship. It will be closed off for engineering because you don't want that radiation getting you. But there will be like a ladder that comes down here so that once the ship has landed, you can actually get to the ground via that direction. Hello, Kroll Brian 12. Welcome. And welcome to the other, let's see, other people in the chat. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna basically talk about the most recent changes to the ship. I've actually done a bunch of images on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and Discord, of course, showing the most recent progress. You can see the ship behind me. It is there. The exterior is finished. So basically, now I have a new copy being printed off in the UK so that it can be painted by someone more professional than I. And yeah, we're looking at sometime in July. I think we'll be able to go live with this one. Um, the exciting stuff that I've done since last week, I did describe the PDCs of the ship, but I happened to do that just before I actually animated how they work. So um, I guess one of the benefits of being a 3D animator is that you can take advantage of the techniques. You can just see a few extra parts in the scene here. That's mostly just because I've been getting stuff ready for print and test printing. Um, so yeah, we have this piece, which is a print in place version of the door. It's actually upside down, so when it would be on your print bed, it would be like this. Those doors, sort of like there's very little clearance, but and I might want to thicken up some of the parts just a little bit there on the inside. But it's refined enough now that they open and close quite well and snap reasonably well. These little pieces sort of slide into this slot there. It gets a bit fiddly with this piece because it's also prints as a single piece in let's see, I can't show the exact orientation. I could isolate it, I guess. So if we just look at this, this is the stowage position. So this piece here, here, and there. Now it's not letting me do it. From this piece to this piece, basically it prints out flat. So we're looking at it. It would print out like this. Then of course the gun has a separate mount that's just got a like a little connection there, and then the joints here are also print in place. And then of course we have a slide joint which is the same as the Starfighters. So in essence, you could certainly put different PDC weapons on there that are compatible with the Starfighters. The main guns that are in Turrets Pack 1, they are very close to those in appearance, but these are actually smaller because it's just a case of we only had so much real estate to work with. So whether or not I do like a large PDC version or something like that that could fit larger weapons, torpedo tubes, those sorts of things. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming, but yeah, we have the. I'm quite proud of the way that's turned out, to be honest. So we do have. Oh, we've got the light on. Yes. So they're mostly articulated. Gravity will hold most of the things in place. Like you just need to slide this section up a little bit over these walls there, and it gets held in place. It will be a bit loose, but I'm hoping get a lick of paint on it, or if you're doing it at a different. I did these at 150 microns, so maybe if you do it at a different resolution, it'll be a little bit more stiff. But you know, I know they're being done with a 0.3 millimeter nozzle on the prints that I'm getting done in the UK. So yeah, 4 of these built into the ship. The top and the bottom ones are slightly different, but yeah, they all sort of slot away like that, and it works the same way on the model. So check out the social media stuff if you want to see a little bit more detail on that. So that's the main update. The parts I've been working on today is actually the ladder well. These are going to have, I don't have any actual floor details yet, but they're going to have a sort of airlock sliding door that you'll just slot into there, and this will continue on there, and then we'll be able to work with rooms and other pieces once that is in place. It also has this track, and that's going to be for a lift. So the lift will just bypass these rungs. I'll add a few more handholds to help you get out when you're in 0G. Might even do variants so that we've got the deck number actually as a part of the model. Let's see, got to first try and recuperate, pick my jaw off the floor and whatnot. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. So yeah, we're going to have ladder wells with lifts, and that will, as mentioned, run all the way down to the bottom of the ship up to the top. So you'll come out here on...
This ship's not nowhere near done yet. He's still doing. He's done
the
a lot of the
interior is
outside,
not done.
but yeah, the interiors are the next thing he's working on. So there's a lot more work to be done on the interior that will be added in for the levels. If you looked on what he's on the social media, our Discord shows a lot of pictures. Ben posts stuff regularly there with whatever status he's got, and I post things on various social medias to show status or upgrades. So if you guys have questions, you feel free to hit me up anytime, or Ben, stop by our Discord, or check out the store in general to see what else is available, because there's a lot of other ships out there that he's done that are available.
Yeah, this is actually my 5th ship, or 5th base ship is probably better to say, because there's a lot of different variants, and we're actually going to be looking at modifying one of those variants for one of my other ships, which is a nice segue if I hadn't coughed right there. So this is the Transport Delta, or was rather. The base ship is behind me. Ugh. So we've got a Corellian style ship. Let's see, at 28 millimeters. So this would be perfect for like a Star Wars Legions style game. So it uses a definite galaxy far, far away design language. Then I've got a couple of other ships behind me. I won't show them in great detail today because I've done this multiple times before, but and I don't have the camera set up. But yes, okay. Are you planning on making the Notanante pristine, or is there plans to have an alternative with battle damage from various episodes? So the Notanante is not the Rocinante, and we did do some damage sections for Starship 4, the last one we did, the Chimera. It's a pet peeve of mine that it just is such a time sink to do the damage, and you have to change so many different parts that honestly I think if you want to do battle damage, you're better off taking to a printed part with, a hot air gun and actually doing some damage to existing parts rather than me trying to design it all. Because unlike many people creating sculpts for 3D printing, these are hand modeled in polygonal modeling. So you don't have anywhere near the resolution of the geometry, but I have a lot more control over the detail. And the nice side effect is that the file sizes are far, far, far smaller.
So if you did do battle damage, it would probably be a stretch goal on the Kickstarter, and that would depend on voting. Usually that's how
I would have to have overwhelming voting to go anywhere near that at this point, because it was a nightmare doing the Halloween one. There's definitely not going to be a free update. Easy enough to make damage with after printing or using misprints for that. Yes, that is true enough, and I certainly have a lot of misprints out there. But there are ways you can make it work. So I don't know. This one is a bit more modular in some ways, not so in others. Maybe there's some opportunities. We'll have to see, but that will be decided during the campaign, depending on how desperate I get.
Do you have an idea of what stretch goals or what add-ons you're thinking about maybe putting in this build this time?
Yeah. Well, let's. So clearly, this hasn't got the Rossi's torpedo tube, so that would be one. I'd probably do another version where we have, like I mentioned, slightly larger PDCs instead of those tubes. We might have a railgun that we could mount on the front. And then we're talking about like replacing the PDCs with like escape pods or cargo modules, or doing versions of the ship where we basically cut it off halfway here and turn it into a little shuttle. That can more or less be done right now. It's all designed to sort of lift off. I'm going to put out a video later today demonstrating that. I've already put some pictures up on social media. It's those, amongst some of them, I'll probably do something where we've got the gas style canisters, the sort of boarding containers that we saw in season 2, that sort of thing, so that you can turn it into right now I'd say it's kind of a military ship that looks like it fits into the Expanse universe. Expect stuff that can alter the shape of the vessel. I probably might move more towards like more finished modules and configurations, because I've found that a lot of people want a clear idea about what to do with the modularity rather than just like, here are your Lego pieces. Have fun. Oh, but the other thing that will be coming out with it is a deck planner, so that I'm not saying it'll be in a finished position right now, but John will be helping to make this a reality. So basically, a piece of software that can run on your hard drive, basically load in your STL files and let you play with them and plan out your decks, but also load the essentially instructions in 3D, so you can see how it fits together. You can check it when you're trying to build, and it should be much more efficient than a traditional 2D manual, which has some inadequacies in that respect.
That too is available on our Discord to go and take a look at what's going on and being talked about with that software. That's a growing, changing, evolving thing as well. So if you pop over to the Discord, you can communicate with the software guy, John, and throw in maybe ideas that we hadn't thought of or stuff. But depending on what we're doing, we have a planned project at the moment for it, what we're going to do.
That's right. And I mean, you could easily just with the existing parts, for example, you could make this. You could extend this section here up another level or two. Like going up, it's not going to be a problem. You could have two sections with PDCs. It's there's going to be a fair bit of flexibility. So we'll see. The stretch goals are going to be shared also with the features of this piece of software, because I think overall it's going to make making new ships and ship designs great. It might even be possible in the future to for the community to share their own builds and then make them available to others. So, of course, the configurations. So you'll still need like the STL files to build it yourself. But if you have them on your hard drive as well, you'll be able to sort of import them in and play with them. A level with Windows for a more civilian version. Yeah, that might be possible. The Expanse in particular don't have Windows on ships because of the velocities that they travel at. Been reading the books to get a little bit more of an inkling on how things work. But yeah, we're going to move on from this ship because we've only got another 45 minutes today. And I just realized I didn't close the door. I'll just go quickly close the door. So my co-workers don't get upset with me. So we're going to switch back over to the Long Delta, and this is actually the third part of I don't know if it'll be a 3 or 4 part series now. Get a Rax 333. But we have been working on, basically we had an upper deck version of the Delta, which adds either a cockpit or a little living area to the upper deck. And we had, as part of our last Kickstarter, an extended version, so you can basically lengthen the ship. And we had a couple of suggestions that maybe a modification to that to allow an upper deck for that stretch version would be a great addition. And I kind of like the idea, even though it has turned out not to just be a quick job like I thought it would be. So we're now in week 3 of an hour-long session. We've mapped out the space that's going to be inside, and we're getting to the last part of like figuring out where our joints are going to be. So today, I'd welcome questions while I'm working. We're going to do a little bit of hull detailing here. Then we're going to fix the joints so we can connect it all together. And we might even do a piece to just extend it as well. So that's our goal for today. This is going to be hopefully close to finish today. So yeah, if you guys have got any questions, just go for it. All right. So I think since we've raised these core parts now, these are the parts we're concerning, really, if I isolate them. So what we want is God damn it, these cables are all over the place. We need to use our open lock connections to stitch together this part, and this part. And we also need to do some detailing and to decide whether or not, or rather how we're going to print this. This piece I've got here, I think we will just mirror, and it'll print out standing on its butt like this. We have a little bit more of an issue when it comes to these parts because we're going to need supports either under here, or if we rotate it this way, they're going to have to be under there. I mean, we can design this in a better way in the future. Like we could add some angles here, like a 45-degree angle, and maybe not need any supports, or just supports at the sort of like ring there. But But I think we're going to just stick to supports for now because that's the way that the ship in general has worked. I wouldn't do it anymore. This was my third ship that I built, and I've learnt a lot since then. So I'm just going to figure out where I want my open lock ports now, I think. So we have these ones that were left over from this piece that I'm just going to separate now. Let's see, separate. So we have it as its own sort of thing. Why is that not working? I don't have... I want to just center the pivot. Okay, right. I maybe hit freeze transformations instead. So this is Autodesk Maya. It's a modeling tool. I'm a trained animator. This is a piece of software. Would I recommend it? Not to a beginner. I mean, it takes a long time to learn. I'm not trying to be snobbish, but it's sort of like one of those programs where it's been around since the 90s and they've just sort of built on top of it. So it's also ridiculously expensive. I really should probably have switched to Blender, but I didn't. So let's see. So I'm just going to duplicate these. Blender is the sort of free version, if you will. Not of Maya, but it's a polygonal modeling tool with almost the same features. Maybe not quite as premium, but it's not going to cost you, you know, $2,000 a year. It's absolutely free instead. And the thing is, I don't really need the power of Maya to do what I do. It's just this is what I know, this is what I'm comfortable with. So if you work in 3D Studio Max, in Cinema 4D, in Blender, you're gonna have the basics that I have here anyway, and the same techniques apply. So what I'm just doing is mirroring these ports. We want to have a nice gap. I've got some fancy lighting on for you guys there, just mostly so you can see what's going on. This is going to be a little bit loose, I think, because we can only really put ports there, but we're just going to have to live with it. So I know for sure these ports are going to be, they have reasonable clearance, because we want some good layers to cover it up. So we're just gonna go and mesh, combine, which basically turns it into the same object, if you will. And to get this to be 3D printable, we eventually have to close up all of these gaps and make it what's called manifold, or you might have heard it as complex. And so for that, I'm gonna mostly close up this piece now. Where does it connect to? Okay, only one there. Yeah, so this needs to be one piece in the end. So we're basically just going to mirror the piece. So now that these are all integrated, and this is a part of the same mesh, you can see, however, it's sort of like floating and not connected. So what do I mean by manifold? Manifold means essentially air or watertight. So basically every single polygon and edge and vertex fits together so that there are no gaps. And this can sometimes be harder than what it sounds like, just because sometimes problem solving in Maya can be a real pain in the arse. I have been known to swear at this software numerous times, call it names. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but at the end of the day, it treats me reasonably well. It doesn't always do what you want. The software can be, at times, buggy. The dreaded Maya crash is a thing. Now that's interesting. Oh no, it was just a trick of the light. So, what else is going on at the moment? Yeah, I'm mostly just getting prepared to kick things into gear even more with the new Kickstarter. We did have a couple of delays because Mick unfortunately got COVID. He's the guy that does the amazing sets that the ships sit in. You know, I've taken longer than I thought. I always take longer than I thought, I think, with the ships. Let's see, swearing while using any remotely complex software is like breathing when exercising, practically mandatory. I would have to concur with that assessment. I went to Catholic school in Australia, and yeah, we learnt very flowery language very quickly there. It's always ironic that. But yes, I definitely swear at this software a lot, so it's just words. Hopefully no one's offended. And to be perfectly honest, that's someone else's problem, not mine.
Ask is of the people in the room currently, what 3D printers do you have?
Yeah, good
Do all
question.
you?
Let's get a conversation going. Because Zaroma, I don't know if you guys know, but Zaroma is like a printing whiz. So we have a nice 3D printing channel on our Discord. Zaroma is active there, and also at, what was the other one? Your
3D desktop or 3D printed tabletop. Sorry.
Yes.
Danny
Yes.
from Miami, if you know.
Great YouTube channel. Lots of fantasy minis reviewed and printed.
I support both Discords as an admin and do hardware support and so forth for print jobs and stuff, and help Ben with engineering sides of some things like electric, lighting, and crap like that.
Yeah, so that's one thing that is sort of in part of the next phase, which I'd call phase 3, maybe phase 1. We've got the initial designs that's going to sort of lay out approximately how I want the ship to look. Phase 2 is sort of like detailing the exterior, and phase 3 interior and sort of lighting. So we're definitely going to have main engine lights, and we might have some fancy schmancy stuff to show you in the bridge section, and maybe even somewhere else. We'll have to see. Well, actually, anyone could actually see it if they went to our Discord. So
you don't want to give the whole thing.
But yeah, we're talking about adding some lighting to the upper airlock, for example, and at the moment we've settled on some coin-operated batteries as the main power source.
You always talk about making an actual fusion core using a larger battery at centralizing, and then going from there, and maybe even doing printed wiring within the ship itself. But not many people have a printer that can do 2 types of material at one time. So that was decided to be skipped, and we're going more towards solid wiring, but using some kits that we would be able to, or I will help with getting people access to, so that they can have some pre-set up kits that will then fit into the ships if they want to add them or not, which may or may not happen depending on what we decide to do and what people want to do and the Kickstarter and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So I think it's going to happen, to be honest. I don't see how anyone... I mean, mind you, these kits, this ship's not going to be as expensive as the Chimera. I don't know the price point yet. There are some fluctuations. Thanks, Brazevine. Nice to see you. Hope to see you in the future. Basically, the lighting is something I've wanted to do for a while, but I don't know shit about it, and we kind of got it. Part of this is also doing it at a level that I can understand and digest. So we did some early experiments with using PLA that can hold a current, but yeah, I'd rather stay away from multi-material printers, because I know that, just as, you know, SLA printers, they're getting more common, but still FDM is the most common. Actually, resin's coming down in price quite a bit, it seems. I saw someone talking about like $30 per liter. That seems insanely cheap.
Yeah, it's about normal now. 35 dollars a liter.
Yeah, not here, but definitely it's getting more accessible. So I might eventually have to make the leap um, into.
Well, soluble stuff though that not using IP or that requirement still runs like 45 or so. I mean, if you want to go with the water soluble stuff, it's quite pricey.
Oh yeah. But there's a difference between me printing because I'm afraid of chemicals for my own use and what's possible for my backers that are a little bit braver. So I mean, I've had two SLA printers for about 2 years and I've not ever turned on one of them. Which is, yeah, I know there's going to be some people screaming at me for that, but it is what it
I think we
is.
did have some people that were doing uh, the transparent sections on the ship, the windows on the previous model that they were doing with SLA printers. That we had that thing on our Discord about that.
Yeah, we did. So there's definitely some people using it, and I mean they give nicer results. For me, I have not wanted to recommend it mostly because of the price point. And I think already, especially with a ship like the Chimera, you're dealing with something that already costs a considerable amount of money, and I just didn't want to make people buy even more. So, or rather, like the Chimera in PLA, you're probably looking at like $120 just for the plastic, right? So you could maybe get it cheaper down to 100 if you had like a flawless printing process. But that's $100 on top of what I was asking for the designs, and it's all factors um, that factor into business decisions and the amount of time that's gone into. I've been working on the Notanante since I went to Australia. So when did I leave? Since March, end of March, and we're now in June. So 2.5 months I've been working on this ship so far, and only the exterior is finished. Now it will go a little bit quicker from now, but it gives you some idea about what kind of time actually goes into these designs and why um, time-consuming things like doing battle damage are not always practical. All right, so this looks like it's got a slot here that we really don't want, so I'm just gonna quickly get it out because we're gonna have to go up with the base here.
Yeah,
So,
if you're new to our streams, that let just let it be known. Weekly, we do one weekly on Fridays, and we basically try to get show suggestions of what you want to see. This came out of as Ben said earlier in the stream, a suggestion about 3 weeks back where someone wanted to look at doing the long form of this ship and adding in some pieces, and we thought it would be a quicker mod than it turned out to be. Then no, but if there's stuff like that you're interested in, once you look at some of the catalog of stuff Ben's done, then you can let us know and we can do a show based around that perhaps in the future, or we can basically do other topics talking about how to best print things, how to make things work, well for you. We can do support on talking about, the software itself if you want to do something when John's more closer to his release, or go over some stuff. We could do something like that, depending.
yeah, and actually, John even streams his work if anyone's into the programming side of things, uh, and wants to see some behind the scenes there. He's a braver man than I. I'd rather face Maya than Unity, but that's just me. Yeah, so as mentioned, Zoroma is a wealth of printing knowledge as well. So, Zoroma, sorry, keep doing that. All right, so we've got some slots here now, and we made the creative decision not to have any down here. So we're just gonna combine. Wait, do we need more of these? There's 1, 2 there. I think we're good. We're gonna combine these now and try and seal it up. So mesh, combine, and we basically need to recreate this wall here because that's gonna come. Oh, actually, we need to look at the cavity here. We've got to see this section here that's kind of like you can't see through it. This is our interior cavity here that we need to support. So we're going to have to make some modifications to the inside there. And I'm going to put this back on reference mode. Actually, no, because I want to select that to bring it back to the isolation thing. So I'm just going to make that transparent. I don't know if we can actually create stuff based on it, but yeah, we'll find out. Let's see. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or that, feel free to ask. I usually just ramble on, and Zaroma will hop in occasionally to remind me that I'm rambling and provide some actually useful information. Let's see. Oh, wait. Did we? Okay, I thought we took too much there, but it looks like we took it from a different model. Alright, so I'm just matching up these polygons here so that this is gonna... The different faces will actually match the opposite piece. So we want as seamless as possible parts. We don't... I've got my snap on here so that we can actually create some faces linking it to the vertexes on this other piece. So, oh, that happened because I was going the wrong direction. So basically, when you see it twist up like that, it's because you've created a face that's the opposite of what it should be. And it's just a matter of turning it opposite. Now, I think despite this pattern here, this is clearly designed to print out on its butt. I think we're just going to close this off so it's solid. Essentially from where this wall connects. So I'm gonna take this, actually I'll take all of these corners here, and I'm going to essentially do a quick succession of extrusions, and I'm going to match these lines here just so that we're going to have complete loops, because it's easy to select the polygons there if you have the loops. Now I'm not going to go in and detail these walls because right now we're looking at what never is actually seen in the ship. So we've managed to come all the way up to here, and now we need to make a slight alteration or extension rather, just a tad, because we need a tiny bit of room there to ensure that, you know, some people print and end up with like an elephant foot or something like that. You can see there's a tiny bit of clearance between this surface here, the blue, I can highlight it, this surface here and the top of this sort of grayed out cubes, which represent our interior pieces, right? So we need that gap essentially to account for, you know, printing defects that are just due to the fact that, you know, FDM printing is not always completely accurate. Not everyone's printers are as tuned in as they could be. There's many things that could possibly go wrong. And we've got to double check too that this line here isn't just a little too tight compared to that line. So I might consider putting in some hole detailing there. That will just raise it up just a tad. So yeah, actually I think we're looking good for usable parts today by the looks of things. So I'm gonna also grab these, and we're gonna go back in this way. So, oh, question is how does this continue? Okay, so we basically want to go and match this one now. That'll be the optimal thing. So these pieces need to come back just a tad so that they're in line with that. And then we're gonna just do a nice match here again. And it should all fit if I've done this right. Okay. All right. And there we go. So we've got our cavity there for the inside. I would basically make this so that it prints up if we would rotate it 90 degrees to the right, so like that. And this way it's going to be more or less supportless. Maybe you want to support under here. Bridging these days it usually will handle it with most modern printers, but you know, you might want to add some supports in there just to be sure. And then we can see here that we've actually got some polygons that are going through each other, and so we need to actually take this interior here, this section, and we need to basically bring it up so that it's above the roof and that we have enough thickness there that we're not gonna have too much of an issue. So I'm just gonna do a little trick, go to my scaling tool, and that's how we can get this surface flat. And then I'm just gonna go through these other sections. And I'm just going into what's called vertex snap or snap to points, and then pressing D to change the pivot point location. And then I'm just matching that with the snap on to the flat level there so that all of these parts are going up. And that's kind of ugly, so what I'll do is I'll just bring this back in line with that. Should look a little bit flatter, maybe not. What if I add in an edge here? There, got more control over how it looks. So we're going to come up with this. We should be able to see now that there's a good gap between the top and the bottom there. Let's see. Just wondering. Oh, there's a fair few of you there. All of these lurkers. That's fine.
I was asked on the Discord from DM. Someone asked me about what other options or with the ship, or basically where to find the ship. So
with this ship,
well, they're just basically. I think they're just trying to get an idea of like what all's in a package or what you sell or that kind. I think it seems like a general state. They're looking to find out what all goes with this or add-ons go with that ship.
Yeah,
looks like a Star Wars campaign that the guy was going to do.
So the best place to look up that information is on seconddynasty.com, 2nddynasty.com, which is my website. I'm gonna.
It's listed in their stream in the chat there, Ben. I posted.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. So you did. So I'm just trying to look at these angles. If we're going to print it like this, we need to think about overhangs in this section, and this just juts out a little too much for my comfort, so we're probably gonna bring it back just a towel, but we don't want to. Why don't we want to? Because we want to keep this section and make it repeatable. That's why. So let's see. I think we need to... Oh, we can just mirror that. All right. I'm talking to myself here because I'm trying to strategize the best way to do this. Essentially, when planning, I try to think about the overhangs that will require supports, or will force auto-generated supports, and in general we really don't want that happening, because you've got less control over the quality of the print. Some people have more issues than others, especially adhesion issues. So basically I try to bake as much into the actual design itself, so we're not left with something that's unmanageable. So I'm just gonna unite these sections here. So I mean, thinking that we're going to turn this 90 degrees that way, this is still, almost, I'd say that's 40 degrees if we're looking at it on the side, which is definitely the kind of territory where we're not too worried about that. So let's see, we want that there. Do we want that to come all the way down there? Because that's going to ruin that. You know what? I think we're going to ditch this face here. I'm just going to delete some history there because it responds quicker. The more polygons you have on screen, the longer it takes to sort of think. So that's basically what I'm describing. Alright, so we want to get that there, and then we'll just do a last bit there. And then here we've got a bit of an issue because we need to close these gaps here. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. I'm just going to do a quick and dirty one, which is to sort of move this geometry in a little bit so that it's not going to... will it be a bother? I don't know. Ideally, we want to close this off. And then we'll just go up here. Yeah, we've got a nasty overhang there. Well, I'll do another little trick here. I'm going to select this vertex, go into my pivot point alterations, and I'm going to click on this, and it's moved the pivot point to halfway between this one and these two vertexes there. If we go back into the pivot mode, we can actually, if we get the snap on, move it back here. But when we do move the pivot, it's going to move along that line. So we can hopefully shave off some of the issues we have. But it's created this nasty... Maybe that's not that bad. I think we can work with that. Let's see. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. I want a different approach. So I think we're gonna ditch that idea and that and that, and we're gonna match out to that. All right, and then we're gonna close this off, I think, with let's see, I think we'll just take this line. I'm going to move the pivot point to there and then just get it to match over here. It's not all right, but we've got something to work with now, at least. I'm going to bring this down there too. Make it look a little bit more deliberate, and then we're just going to merge these vertexes together. And now we should be able to close off that awkward joint. The idea being here, we're going to all this effort to avoid intersection, because that's also going to print incorrectly. You've got two sections of a mesh that intersect in each other, you're going to end up with a cavity, because that's what happens if you have a manifold mesh that goes inside itself. So,
intersections faster when it comes to printing.
Sorry?
So intersections can be a pain in the butt when it comes to printing because they can create all kinds of problems.
All kinds of problems.
But that's why we test stuff.
That is why we test stuff, and that's why I pull my hair out. Lucky I've got a lot of it. All right, so let's bring this edge back so we can close off this section. All right. And
About 10.
Sorry?
You get about 10 minutes till your 1 hour mark.
Yeah. We should be able to make that, I think, or at least on this part.
I'm not doing it. I'm just letting you know.
Yep. I did just look at the clock, to be honest. If we have to go 10 minutes over to get this done, I think it might be worth it because we're almost at a printable state right now.
And that would be great. Maybe you print it and show it off next time.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You mocking my Australian accent.
I don't know if that was Australian. I was just I'm not sure that was Australian as much as it was just a tonology copying. I don't, because you're not exactly.
I'm just kidding. I don't take offense to it.
I mean, you're not exactly an Australian accent anymore either.
I'm offended by that.
You're Australian light.
Oh, them's fighting words.
All right. I know how to test this. Say Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Hey, that's not Australian. You didn't say it right.
I don't think you're an authority on that. You do realize we have regional dialects in Australia too. It is a continent.
What?
What do you mean, what?
God, that's my skeptic tone.
Oh, okay, right. I don't know. It's hard to read you sometimes, man.
You have an accent.
All right. So let's just merge these vertexes. So I had to make 2 edge loops there, basically because Maya didn't know that I wanted this joined, so I just kind of taped it together, I guess. We'll get to a point real soon where we can actually cover large gaps. Let's see. So in theory, I can just do an edge bridge now. And yep, we're covering that. And once we have like key positions sort of like cordoned off like this, what we can do is just select the whole edge, do a fill, and then I'm going to triangulate this into smaller parts. Normally I like to work with quads, 4-sided polygons, because it's easier to select, but we want to make sure we're using triangles because if you do have quads or n-gons, your slicer is going to interpret that mesh in a certain way, and Prusa Slicer will look at it one way, Simplified 3D another, Cura another yet again. So to minimize these problems and make sure we know exactly how the mesh is going to be interpreted, then we can just make that triangulated. And the most important place we actually looked at just a little while ago was here. Like this is a quad right now, a 4-sided polygon. You can just see here that Maya wants to cut it that way. But the reason we put in the triangle before was because Maya wanted to cut it this way. And you can see that creates a different shape altogether. It doesn't quite look as rounded or practical, right? So that's essentially what I'm describing now. We want to add in these lines just to make sure we control this surface and it's not the slicer that's deciding for you. So you get the same result. Or at least we have a little bit more control over the results. Alright, so we need to come down there and fill in this side. So let's just, I think we're going to do some quick and dirty coverage here for the most part. Because we have some odd shapes. So what I might do is just go back over here, extend, oh, what did I do wrong? There we go, that's working. Hang on a minute, it doesn't seem like it's...
You know, what might be nice to do next time is to do more of a, people don't really see this, they see the ships and they see the painting and they see the printout, but they don't really see how they're modular or how the pieces move in and out, meaning like that there's space in there for minis and that. So maybe showing like you know, more of a active use of this ship, like, you know, like pull it apart, put it together, add the piece in kind of thing.
Yep.
Showing what kind of space is inside might be a nice thing to do to show things off for people.
Yeah, we can do that. I don't always print physically all of the variants that are possible.
Well, this is sort of a 3-week, you know, culmination. It's kind of nice to do see the final payoff.
That's true. For me too, actually. Oh no, we have a little issue. We've lost a vertex there, so we just need to add it back in on this corner. We just do that by basically matching the depth of this, pull it out there, and then out there, so it just matches. Now, when we close this off, we can just go back here, fill the gap, and triangulate it, and we save a bunch of time. And usually, in fact, as long as you connect these in 2 different positions, that needs to be connected like here, maybe. And then we also want to avoid this section here for now, so we're just going to go and create a section there. So if I just select this edge, it goes all the way around these, fill. This will create a very awkward, horrible geometry, but we triangulate it, and we now ensure that, you know, your slicer is going to look at it the way we want it to. All right, so just one last little closing here. That, and out there. Merge these vertexes. I'm selecting more than I need to, but basically it figures out where the detail is needed, essentially. And I'm just going to go and merge these 4 like so. And just to add an extra line there, I'm going to put a division in so that this is more of a matchup. I'm just going to patch it because I'm feeling a bit lazy right now. So, and then we can literally go back to this last hole. Just select here, looks clean. It closed off, and we've got a complete part. Well, half of a complete part. So we want to go move our pivot point there. Delete some history, and we want to duplicate this, mirror it in the blue is the Z, so if we put -1 here, mesh, combine, let's isolate that again and just sew up this line in the middle. And there we go, we've got the basics. What we're not going to get to today is detailing the hull on this, because it's gonna take longer than a few minutes. But I think we can close up this piece, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, where did our locks go?
I want to do the detailing offline and then do the print next week, or do you want to do the detailing next week?
Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Well, I'm asking so I can post it up for letting people know in advance next time.
Well, what do people think? Do they want to see what the detailing looks like, or should I do it in between?
I think you should do it in between, because people want to see what it looks like from what I'm hearing from the 1 or 2 posts I've got DM'd to me.
They want to know what the detailing looks like.
No. They want to see what the finished product looks like.
Oh, yes. But it's, I mean, it's all... Thing is, these sessions take away from the time I'm working on the actual ship. So that's
what
also...
I mean is just printing. To explain, maybe I'm not explaining it well. Just what you're doing there, what you finished this 3-week thing, you know, are printing that piece and just you already have the main ship done. So just adding that piece in and showing how this changes the look and feel of it and what the outcome is.
Oh, yeah. the final
I
look.
want to see how it would be used in game, kind of thing, as far as the way the ship works.
Yep. Okay, I'm with you. All
That's
right.
freaking whole thing.
Okay, so let's close this off. Nah. Should zoom in some more so I'm not selecting the wrong ones. Ah, wrong tool. There we go. So we can just.
Every time you say it, it immediately reminds me of Babylon.
What does, sorry?
Every time you say wrong tool, it immediately reminds me of Babylon 5.
All right.
Zathros, the character in Babylon 5 he's like from the planet down below that Babylon 5 orbits, and he's like this kind of like this guy who's stuck maintenancing the Great Machine, and they get sent into the future and the past at one point, and as he's looking around trying to fix some temporal item for the commander, he's looking through stuff and he picks up one of the tools that's in the cabin. He says, "Never use this tool. Wrong tool."
I haven't seen Babylon 5 since the 90s, I don't think so.
For the device, and then he picks up like one of the 3 tools in the box, and then he says, "Never use this." But why is it in the box then? It's like.
Yep.
I'll have to find that for you at some point. I think I posted that before something I showed. I thought maybe that was something else.
Let's see. Get that. And we want to move this over there, just so we can start closing off these sections. Put that there. I have a feeling we're going to end up with a section here that's not going to completely go the way we want it to, because yeah, we've got this hole here and that hole there, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to recreate this geometry here. And hopefully now it just selects this ring. Yeah. So we can just where did it go? There. Alright, so we can close that. We can close this. Wait, no. Okay, this is an indication of a problem there. The fact that it highlighted that. So we're just going to rebuild this geometry, because we don't want this edge loop to be doing anything but what's flat on that face. We're just going to create a really whack n-gon. Alright, so I think we should be almost good here. We just need to take out that, and we actually have to make this open, I realize, because we're going to mirror it. Alright. Let's get the pivot point centered again. Let's move it onto this side. We're going to duplicate. We're going to mirror. And then we're going to recombine this. And we just need to weld this together. And there we have it. We have created today 3 manifold parts that will fit together. I think that's, I'll have to look into the flatness of that. Maybe there's something that could be adjusted, but it's very, very small. But yeah, we have the basic shape. It's ready to, technically I could export this now to Prusa Slicer, slice it up and start printing, but I want to add some additional details. So I might do that now this afternoon, or on Monday or something, and hopefully by next week I'll have some printable parts ready to show. I think we'll leave things here for now. As always, thanks for joining me, Zorima.
Sure.
And yeah, check out our social media channels. They're in the chat. If you're joining us on YouTube later, we also have some Facebook groups, and yeah, you can find me on Twitter or on Instagram as well. Second Dynasty 3D as the company. SecondDynasty.com if you want to see some nice pictures of our stuff or buy some of our items. All right, guys, that's enough. Yep. Did you want to say something, Zorima?
Yeah, I was gonna say if you need help with printing or have an issue with some of your printing, feel free to DM me in the Discord, and I'll be happy. That's all.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys. Nice to see you again. See you next week. Oh, actually, next week, no. National holiday. It is midsummer next week. It is one of the 3 days of the year that in Sweden everyone gets pissed and eats weird fish. So, also dancing around the maypole and whatnot, but you know. So, we're not going to film those traditions, and since these are Corona times, I'm not probably going to participate in them either. But so we'll come back in 2 weeks, guys. See you guys then. All right, bye.
Bye.